This is Enterprise Security Perspectives, straight talk for the people who carry the risk. No hype, no vendor pitch, just what changes when security has to move at the speed of the threat. One quick note, the voices you're hearing, including mine, are AI generated. The ideas are Roger Halpier's.
The voice is synthetic. The perspective isn't. Let's get into it.
Last time we hired the decision engineer and put them in the right seat, but a great hire with no plan is just potential. So today, what do they actually do? Where does a 12-month rebuild start?
It starts somewhere that's going to feel anticlimactic. Because phase one, the first 3 months, is almost entirely conversation. No big technology rollout. You set the reporting line in writing. You rewrite the CISO mandate so it says explicitly, the CISO equips leaders to own risk and does not own it themselves. You hold the first real board conversation about risk appetite, acceptable loss, which services are critical, and you get it in writing. And you put the governance cadence on the calendar before you even have content for it. That's most of phase one.
That does sound light. 3 months of meetings.
It sounds light, and that's the single most dangerous trap in the whole plan. Think of building a house. The part you're excited about is the kitchen, the glass, the visible stuff. But if you skip the foundation and go straight to the visible work, the whole thing cracks, and you pay for it later, at the worst possible time. Phase one is the foundation. It's mostly talk because the decisions are the foundation. A pre-authored authority playbook with no executive agreement behind it is just paper. Get the boring governance done first, and everything after it moves faster.
Okay, but it's not only talk. There must be technical work even in the first 90 days.
There is, but it's deliberately limited to know what you have, and the cheap, overdue wins. You audit standing privilege, find the worst offenders, the long-lived admin accounts, the shared credentials, the service principals with broad scope. You don't fix it all yet. You make the list. You turn on phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication anywhere it's missing on privileged paths, the easiest structural win there is. And you sweep the obvious long-lived secrets out of code repositories and config files. Inventory and quick wins. The deep rebuild waits for phase two on purpose.
So phase 2, months 4 to 8, is where it gets real.
That's where authority stops being a slide and becomes operational. The single most important deliverable of the entire year lives here. You codify the pre-authored actions into written runbooks, one per action, with the conditions, the evidence required, the communication path, and they're signed by the CEO, the general counsel, and the CISO. Identity suspension, endpoint isolation, session revocation, service degradation. In writing, signed. And then, this is the part people skip, you run live tabletop exercises that actually exercise those actions end to end to find the gaps before an attacker does.
Signed runbooks. That's the artifact.
That's the artifact. Everything in the foundation. Decide before, not during. Pre-authored authority. It all comes down to that signed runbook existing. Without it, you have good intentions. With it, the system can act at 3 in the morning on authority a human granted in daylight. And alongside it, the bi-weekly governance meeting becomes the operating heartbeat. Live threat picture in, decisions out, with named owners and dates. If that meeting drifts into status updates, you stop it and restart with a tighter agenda.
Do you start measuring anything yet, or is that later?
You start now in phase 2, and you measure the things nobody used to. Decision latency and authority latency. How long from seeing something to deciding, and how long from the decision to actually being allowed to act. You name them, you track them, you report them, and you reduce them on a published cadence. Most security metrics measure coverage. These measure speed, and speed is the whole game. What you choose to measure here is what actually starts to move.
And the technology spine in phase 2?
It gets rebuilt around identity. You stand up a unified telemetry plane, one security data lake with a relationship-aware graph on top, which becomes the foundation for everything in phase 3. You roll out conditional access everywhere and start moving privileged access to just in time, just enough. Standing admin is the thing you're hunting, and you start governing AI agents as real actors. Every copilot, every automation, every integration gets an identity, a scope, telemetry, and a lifecycle. Most enterprises are genuinely shocked when they count how many they already have.
Then phase 3, the last few months of year 1. What does done look like?
The model is embedded, measured, and the headline. The SOC has moved from human-run to agent-operated, with humans on the loop, not in it. This is the part that sounds like science fiction and isn't. On top of that graph you built, 3 classes of agents run continuously.
Walk me through the 3.
Red agents do continuous adversary emulation. They walk the graph looking for paths you haven't closed, and they actually trigger your pre-authored conditions to test whether the defense responds correctly. Blue agents do continuous triage and containment. They pull context from the graph, correlate across the telemetry, and execute the pre-authored actions when conditions match, handing off to humans only for the novel, first-of-kind cases. And green agents do remediation. They take what blue contained and make it a permanent fix. Patch, reconfigure, rotate, then rerun the red scenario to confirm the fix held. Red finds it, blue contains it, green closes it, continuously.
And the humans?
They move on to the loop, not in it. They set the policy, define the pre-authored conditions, review the agent's decisions on a cadence instead of in real time, take the cases the agents escalate, and tune the agents based on outcomes. The team gets smaller, more senior, and works on what humans are actually good at: judgment, novelty, edge cases, and the conversations with the rest of the business. And critically, the agents aren't above the rules. Each one has its own identity, scope, and life cycle, governed exactly like a human account.
What about everyone outside security? The ordinary employee?
They have to be brought in, because pre-authored authority touches them directly. Picture a user whose session gets revoked at 2 in the morning because an agent matched a condition. If that person has never heard of any of this, you've created a furious employee and a support fire at the worst possible time. So part of the rollout is telling the whole organization in advance what pre-authored authority means for them, why a session might be cut, and what happens next. Authority moving forward in time only works if the people it affects aren't ambushed by it.
What does that buy you? In numbers?
Mean time to detect and mean time to respond drop by at least an order of magnitude against your Phase 1 baseline. With agents in the operating seats, minutes is a credible target for both, and seconds is in reach for the most common attack patterns. Standing admin privilege is at or near 0, and the team stops working from a list of alerts and starts working from a map of the paths an attacker could take, with the red agents actively walking that map ahead of them.
That's a big change for the people in the SOC.
It is, and it's the part most organizations underestimate. The shape of the team changes. Fewer Level 1 and Level 2 analysts, more senior engineers who can build, tune, and supervise agents. You have to plan that transition deliberately, including how it lands with the people already there. The technology is the easy part. The human transition is where this quietly succeeds or fails.
Is there a single test for whether the model's actually embedded and not just installed?
Yes, and it's brutally simple. Can the security leadership bench run the whole loop for 2 weeks without the CISO? If the model collapses the moment the CISO goes on leave, it isn't embedded, it's a person, not a system. The whole point was to build a decision system that doesn't depend on one hero being awake at the right moment. So you test it the obvious way. Take the hero out for 2 weeks and watch whether the loop keeps turning.
And after year 1, Phase 4?
It stops being a transformation program and becomes simply how the enterprise operates. And then the pattern spreads. The same continuous decision loop shows up in fraud, in operational risk, in supply chain, live signal in, decisions out, pre-authored authority where speed matters. The CISO role itself evolves from running the security decision system to being the decision system architect for the whole enterprise. And the acceptable loss conversation with the board becomes an annual working session, not a presentation, because the number changes as the business and the threats change.
If a leader takes one thing from the whole plan, what is it?
Do the governance moves first, even though they feel like the slowest, least impressive part. The temptation is always to skip the conversations and jump to the technology, because technology feels like progress. But a pre-authored playbook with no executive sign-off is paper. And a modernized SOC that still reports through the CIO just inherits the latency it was supposed to remove. Get the foundation right, and everything else moves faster.
And how long, honestly?
12 months to a credible operating model, and another 12 to truly embed it. Anyone selling you shorter is selling. But here's the thing. You don't have to finish to benefit. The Phase 1 decisions alone, the reporting line and the signed authority, change how you'd survive an incident next month. You start being safer the moment you start deciding in advance.
A strong place to end. Thank you.
That's Enterprise Security Perspectives. If it made you think, there's more material linked in the show notes, and the next episode's already waiting.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next one.